The rich aroma of veggie ramen filled the kitchen as it simmered. Saung's stomach grumbled, and he lamented his freezer's lack of vanilla ice cream. He tapped his fingers on the island on beat with the timer's ticks. The savory smell hooked his nostrils, and his mind wandered to the creamy treat he could not have. Though incomparable flavors, they provoked the same nostalgic memory. Most rambunctious 10-year-olds, forced to sit still and learn, longed for excitement instead. Itched for the weekend, to get home and play with their toys, or run about the yard with the family dog. Saung relished the several days free from teachers, homework, and schoolyard harassment. But the opportunity to paint with his grandfather thrilled more. Many hectic school weeks earned Saung a celebratory hot cup of noodles. Afterwards they'd visit the kind vendor of icy delights and walk home, plain vanilla cone in hand. Envy coated the inside of his gut as he glared at the children, whose cones were more sprinkles than ice cream. They came at a price too steep for the measly addition of colorful bits of hardened sugar. Young Saung thought his grandfather cruel for denying him. With age, Saung understood. Too much sugar. A nominal flavor difference. Colorful fun turned to an inevitable brown, unappetizing smear within a few licks. Not worth the extra 2,000 won. The timer rang the dinner bell, and Saung moved the pot from the stove to a pot holder. This brand didn't agree with his finicky tummy as a kid, but grandfather loved it, so that's all they ever had in the house. He had to grin and bear it. Though now he could buy his own noodles, a few packs of yache sogut always made it into the cart. He didn't despise it as much anymore. A splash of broth soaked into the quart beneath the pot as Saung shifted it across the counter. The flavor profile still didn't jive with his tastes, but he recalled being more offended by it as a child. After ensuring it wouldn't burn him, Saung used a fresh pair of chopsticks to drop a noodle onto his tongue. Without the broth, it was quite bland, but he enjoyed the springy texture. To be frank, Saung's ravenous stomach would have enjoyed scalding, unappetizing mush. Saung mixed the fixins and a dollop of spicy chili paste into a crime scene of a meal in his bowl. Discovery of a red speck on his sweatpants brought out a silent swear. His saliva-coated thumb only exacerbated the stain further. In defeat, Saung resigned to later tossing them in the wash bin for a good soak. For now, he'd enjoy his long-awaited dinner. Ice clinked in the glass, and cool water soothed as he took a swig after every few bites of his dinner. While the drink calmed his mouth from the onslaught of spices, a different heat brewed in the pit of his stomach. A warmth he'd need more than ice water to stamp out. The ceiling protested as Yongju moved about his room. To Saung, a bachelor since his early 20s, the sound felt strange and unfamiliar. As the photos traveled from his camera to his laptop, Saung flicked through. The noodles satiated his hunger, but couldn't end the stirrings within. With the photos in Yongju's resume, Saung thought himself prepared. But that was until he faced the real deal. Beautiful red locks, pale skin, freckles uncharacteristic to the locals. Part of Saung thought Yongju a figment of his imagination. The creation of a lonely mind from a 30-year-old creeper. A creak came from upstairs. Yongju was real, and he currently occupied the guest bedroom. Damp hair sprinkled tiny droplets over his baggy shirt and countertop. Saung wiped away sesame seeds from an earlier overzealous pour into his bowl. His eyes flicked to the pot on the island. He devoured his bowl so fast that steam still rose from the noodles when he lifted the lid. Saung rummaged his cupboard for a leftover container. The sudden rush of water through the pipes above him broke his focus. Thoughts of Yongju, wet from the rain, turned to thoughts of him in the shower. His body covered in a weak lather, no less revealing than the robe he wore today. In the older male's imagination, he could see as much as he wanted. Though a fabrication today provided him enough pieces to get the full picture of the puzzle. Saung strove for professionalism, but his mind couldn't care less. The image of Yongju's hands, as they slid over his thighs, played in his head. He scrubbed dirt from his legs. Head tilted back, eyes closed, neck exposed. Saung smacked his forehead with an open palm in frustration. A wild thought of latching his mouth onto Yongju's neck, both excited and unsettled him. Yongju definitely tested his limits today, and Saung failed. In epic proportions. He shouldn't even allow such ideas to take root, but as long as he didn't act upon them, he should be fine. Right. Shaking a loose strand of hair from his face, Saung's wandering mind altered his plans. Instead of saving the rest for breakfast, he closed the cupboard and stood in search of another bowl. He retrieved one that matched his own, but changed instead to nicer black one with a gold rim and base. Like a chef plating a dish for a VIP client, Saung piled the noodles neat and grabbed a fresh pair of chopsticks. No sooner had he done this did the shower stop running. He listened to Yongju's feet pad across the floor to where Saung left a robe and fresh slippers on the bed. He smiled as each subsequent step came muffled now and pulled a cold drink from the fridge, positioning it alongside the bowl on a food tray. Ridding his brain full of tempting yet inappropriate thoughts, Saung ascended the steps. It had taken Yongju a moment to register the sound of knocking. He instinctively neatened his hair as if answering the door for a suitor, but Saung wasn't there. The only evidence he had been a hot ramen bowl and cold cola beckoning from a wooden tray on the floor. Was he so desperate to avoid Yongju that he damn near sprinted away? He'd have to thank him tomorrow. For now, Yongju bowed to the empty hallway. He picked up the tray, long braids swinging forward brushing the glass. Yongju's heart leapt. He felt fortunate to avoid shattering the bottle and sending Saung running back. That's the last thing he needed today. He'd embarrassed himself enough. The rest of the week needed to be flawless. Sinking down onto the hardwood, Yongju sat cross-legged and placed his meal in front of him. He decided earlier that missing dinner would be his penance, but actually he was starving. Yongju took a large mouthful and choked on the first bite. He enjoyed spicy foods, as Saung did, but somehow he hadn't expected the level of heat. Yongju reached for the cola to chase away a cough, careful to set it back on the tray and not the floor. As he sat there munching away in silence, he could no longer hear Saung skulking about the kitchen. Would he have turned in for the night? Or was he staring at Yongju's face right now? Blown up to an uncomfortable resolution on his computer screen. Yongju prayed he captured something worthwhile today. The idea of wearing lingerie in front of Saung did not thrill in the way Yongju would hope. Not in this context. Having to repeat the experience would only be a slight bit easier due to the fact he'd done it before. Slurping his final noodle, Yongju prayed for at least one beneficial photo to justify the shoot. Content. Yongju patted his happy tummy and set down the bowl. Climbing back onto the bed, he snatched his phone to send an irritated text to his sister. She responded damn near immediately. A laughing smiley face and a shrug. Yongju wanted to slap her through the phone.
I genuinely thought you'd rock it, honest.
Yongju frowned. I was practically naked. Yongju's hair soaked the back of his pajamas, and lavender permeated the air as he moved. He watched residual drops fall from the leaves outside. The sky had relaxed, too, everything now coated in a sheen of moisture. In response to a message asking about the shoot's outcome, he texted Emmy a short recap. He'd almost ate dirt, eagles in his stomach and rainfall amplifying his instability. But Yongju felt confident he'd brought his A game. Well, maybe a B+. Still a passing grade. Slouching against the headboard. His cheeks heated as he thought of his near wipeout earlier. The damp patches on his shirt brought discomfort, but Yongju's hardly noticed. To avoid being late again, Yongju took a moment to set an alarm on his phone. No matter how early a start Saung wanted tomorrow morning, Yongju would not be late for it. His phone beeped.
Is he everything you hoped for?
For a time, Yongju regretted telling his sister about his crush. She'd known he was gay even before he did. In fact, the whole household suspected this. But the teasing sure seemed to intensify when he'd made an official confession. Never mean-spirited, but annoying nevertheless. The first time his stomach swirled this way, young Yongju didn't know what to make of it. He soon recognized it to be an occurrence replicated every time he was around a specific boy in his class. When he looked in his direction or even spoke to him, the feeling strengthened. He raced home one day itching to share this new discovery with someone. Mother peered at Yongju through knowing eyes before he could find the courage to speak. "What's his name?" she asked, giddy. Yongju remembered the question, feeling rather presumptuous. Why would she think his excitable state stemmed from a boy? But she wasn't wrong, and Yongju felt too relieved that she'd saved him from having to broach the topic. All he had to do was nod. Settling on a frowning cactus with its arms crossed, Yongju hit send. His sister's response came this time as a voice clip, her exuberant laughter muffled. Yongju pictured Emmy burying her face in her pillow.
More handsome in person, I bet,
she teased. If there was one thing Yongju knew in absolute clarity, it was this. And Yongju let out a light chuckle, his response ironic. He's a work of art. The clock read 1:45 by the time Emmy stopped razzing him. She tormented him at a professional level, so Yongju knew she hadn't lost interest. She had an early morning shift, and waiting up to hear from her precious baby brother already cut into her sleep. Emmy sent a final kissy face and nothing more. Flirting with midnight, Yongju knew he should get some sleep, too. There was still a little over an hour before the clock struck 12, but the day's events maintained a direct line to his brain. Sleep would play hard to get, even if he did lay his head on the pillow this very second. Gathering the aftermath of his meal, he deposited it on the dresser. His unpacked bag coaxed him to use the dresser drawers at his disposal. A swaying branch instead moved his attention outdoors. The moon shone a pale blue glow over the forest, calling Yongju back to the watering hole. An invitation he readily accepted. Pulling a pair of runners from his bag, he double-knotted them both. Yongju grunted as he shut the door behind him and set off on his late-night excursion. The atmosphere had that clean scent that followed every rainfall, invigorating Yongju's lungs. Convening with nature was Yongju's form of meditation, and after today, he needed it. He'd had worse first days for sure. Today had gone quite well, to be honest. But his stress level today beat out every other past experience combined. The crisp air cleaned his airways with each inhale as he traced the path for a second time that day. Yongju smiled as the waterfall's friendly exclamation grew louder. Proper footwear and knowledge of where he was going made Yongju much quicker on his feet. The rain and absence of the sun erased all humidity. Though nightfall brought lower temperatures, with more fitting attire, Yongju took less notice. The area took on a whole new brilliance at night. Everything was so peaceful. Many of the nocturnal critters still hidden safe in their nests and hollows. With a satiated belly and a free mind, Yongju trudged over sticks and eased around slick rocks. He pondered how he would get his little crush under control for the rest of the week. Or at least create a more effective mask. Low-hanging branches showered him with loose water droplets whenever touching one proved unavoidable. Yongju spotted the brilliant waters through the trees. Wherever the moon kissed the surface, a halo effect. He palmed his empty pocket, itching to take a photo. Being only a few feet from the cabin, it didn't seem necessary to bring his phone, so he left it on the charger. If the fates were kind, Yongju would come here again before week's end. Provided he lasted that long. Yongju sought out the tree Saung had entrusted with their belongings. He tucked his jacket underneath his bottom to avoid soaking his pajamas when he sat on the mucky ground. A large root kept him away from the puddles collected there from the storm. Leaning back against the tree, he enjoyed the firmness of its embrace. For a moment he swore he could feel Saung's arm around him again, supporting his back, fingers inches from his belly button. He rolled his eyes in annoyance and looked to the stars twinkling above him as a distraction. Yongju pondered what the next day would have in store for him. Part of him hoped that Saung would have reason to place hands on him again. A stinging sensation bloomed from the tip of Saung's tongue, and he almost spit out the bitter liquid. He sucked in a breath of air, but it did little to soothe the area. So lost as he'd been in Yongju's eyes that Saung forgot to cool down his tea before sipping. Each photo proved more breathtaking than the last. Saung had to stop to shoo away vulgarity settling between his ears. He spotted Yongju's shrewd expression and sly smirk on the computer screen. If Yongju knew what Saung thought when he looked at him, he'd be in trouble. He needed 1 or 2 photos tops, and this task had no business taking him this long. In the past, he knew which shot would make it to canvas the moment he captured it. But today he struggled comparing one photo to the next to determine his preference. Every angle showed a different nuance that only added to Yongju's stunning visage. The way the light made his skin glisten, or the vibrant hues in his tresses. How his complexion rivaled the shine of the thread and embroidery adorning the robe he wore. The outfit would dazzle on anyone. Whoever made it put obvious care into each stitch. But despite how gorgeous the garment was on its own, Yongju outshone it. He could have donned a garbage bag and elicited the same heart-stopping response. Marveling at his ancestry, Saung traced Yongju's freckles with his finger. From his cheekbone across the bridge of his nose, continuing on the other side. Had Yongju ever been to Ireland? Beyond stereotypical knowings he'd learned from unreliable media, Saung didn't know the country. Yongju didn't fit the Irish mold, but he didn't scream Korean either. His pallor matched the ideal paleness that the beauty industry thought so desirable. The obsession with a fair complexion, so prevalent in this country, never made sense to him. Saung wouldn't have cared if he had been purple. Beauty shines through all skin tones. Living day to day with Yongju's face would be difficult. His striking features didn't fit the typical Korean look at all. Points and stares must be the norm wherever he went. Saung shuddered at the very idea. For the first time, he felt grateful to his mixed Japanese-Korean heritage. He enjoyed his hermit-like existence, and at least he had the luxury of blending in. 50 images now down to 20, Saung stretched his arms over his head. A twinkle came from underneath the bed, and Mia bounded up onto the mattress beside him. Eyes never leaving his laptop, Saung offered her a hand. She nuzzled against it, her wet nose tickling his skin. Overwhelmed by the choices in front of him, Saung closed his eyes and clicked at random. The printer hummed to life, spat out 3 photos and went quiet again. Saung retrieved the contenders and spread them across the bed. Chewing his lip, he perused each image carefully and finally made a selection. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more.